Hey everybody, Bandicoot Commando here, and welcome back to Marvel Rivals. Last time, I read Cloak and Dagger's lore story. What was it called again? A Brief Farewell. It just talks about how Tandy and Tyrone, how they were essentially merged in a sense, and that only one of them can be physically present at a time, and how the one time that Reed is able to find a way to fix their solution, Ty is forced to use his powers to save Tandy and some civilians. But hopefully, there's hope that they can be separate and be physical again. But for now, next up on the list is Doctor Strange. Stephen Strange. As the Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Stephen Strange gracefully wields ancient spells to turn the tide of even the most impossible battle. However, magic always comes at a cost, and each use of his arcane abilities gradually awakens the darkness within him. This is the only skin I have. God of Magic. I'll pull this up to. Oh, it's. Okay. I can see everything. I am everything. So much more than a sorcerer. I don't think I'm even mortal anymore. No, I I am God of Magic. It's a pretty badass title, and being a God of Magic would make you pretty powerful. Stephen Strange. Respected surgeon Stephen Strange was forced to seek a different path when his hands were injured in a terrible accident. Devoting himself to the mystic arts, Strange became this dimension's first line of defense against supernatural threats, the Sorcerer Supreme. Sensing a massive temporal disturbance, Doctor Strange performed an arcane ritual to protect his reality. The spell failed, and Strange and his Sanctum Sanctorum became trapped within the mirror dimension. Lost in the time stream, Strange uses his mystic mastery to free himself for short spans of time in order to join the fight. Unexpected guests. And actually, before we read, hold on, I gotta use the bathroom. I'll be back. Okay, back from my bathroom break. And I got some water with me because I feel like this is gonna be a long one, so. Unexpected guest. It was another sweltering summer night on the island of Manhattan. Though the sun had gone down hours earlier, the, the residential the residual heat it left behind still radiated from the pavement in shimmering waves. The forecast had not called for any relief from the record temperatures in the immediate future, but the residents of Greenwich Village had come to expect the unexpected, thanks to one of their more colorful neighbors. So when a powerful blast of icy air swept down Bleecker Street, it barely drew any attention, at least from those outside. Within the confines of a building marked 177A, however, someone had most certainly taken notice of the sudden chill. We have a visitor, said Dr. Stephen Strange, barely looking up from the ancient tome in front of him. The Sorcerer Supreme was sitting cross-legged, floating a few feet in the air as he studied the arcane rituals within the sacred texts. He paused for a moment before speaking again, this time with a slightly more commanding tone. Wong, do get the door, please. We mustn't keep our guest waiting. Wong's out on a supply run, a gruff voice replied from below. Guess we ran out of iron newt or something. How come you never told me we were expecting company, Doc? Because we weren't, Strange replied, as he looked down at Bats, the ghostly basset hound that had recently become one of his most faithful companions. Strange unfolded his legs and gently landed on the floor of his study. But, invited or not, this is one visitor that it would be best not to turn away without at least hearing what he has to say. After all, he has traveled quite far to get here, haven't you, Victor? Indeed I have, Stephen, replied the unexpected guest in an authoritative voice. There in the hallway, just outside of Doctor Strange's inner sanctum, stood the metal-clad monarch of Latveria, the villainous Victor Von Doom. How the heck did he get in here? Bat said with a low growl, the green glow from his spectral form intensifying. This place is supposed to be intruder-proof. It seems the good doctor's sanctum sanctorum is desperately in need of some more powerful protection spells, Doom replied snidely. And perhaps a better watchdog as well. I suppose I can use a change. I could use to a change a few mystic locks, Strange said with a smirk, though I scarcely have to worry about anyone getting past the front door. After all, there aren't that many other mortals as adept at sorcery as you. You flatter me, Stephen, Doom replied. Do go on. It's true, Strange continued. I may be this dimension's sorcerer supreme, but when it comes to the mastery of the dark arts, you may very well be my equal, which makes the fact that you've come here even more concerning. If you need my help, then something must be very wrong. Everything is wrong, Stephen, Doom said, and it has been for far too long. But I believe I have discovered a way to fix it, to bend time itself to my whims. Time is not something to be tampered with, Strange replied. The cost is far too high. You know that. But what if the reward were even greater? Doom continued. I'm on the verge of something magnificent, Stephen, and you hold the key to my success. What's this chrome-plated crackpot yapping about? Bats asked, clearly growing more impatient with every second. Victor has long sought to undo some critical mistakes that led him down his current path, Strange said. Doom does not make mistakes, the visitor replied sternly. However, there were certain steps along my journey that, if retread, could lead to possibilities that currently lie beyond my grasp. Tell me, Stephen, have you not ever wished to rewind the clock? Strange paused, looking down at his mangled hands, wondering how his life might have unfolded had he not been in the accident that had forced him to go from renowned surgeon to reclusive sorcerer. But as the Ancient One had taught him, fate was not in the hands of any mortal, even those with unparalleled mystical might. I have become who I am supposed to be, Victor, Strange said. My journey would have ended in the same place, no matter the road taken. I wish to prove otherwise, Doom replied, and to do so, all I require is a single spell. The fact that you do not already have access to the spell you seek speaks volumes, Strange said, raising a curious eyebrow. There are a few arcane rites unknown to a sorcerer of your esteem. Perhaps just the forbidden spells inscribed on the pages of the Dark Hold, Doom said. Stephen Strange shuddered at the name. The Darkhold was a cursed collection of insidious incantations, said to be authored by the elder god of chaos, known as Kython. This so-called Book of Sins had a corrupting effect on those who dared to tap into its mystic malevolence. Strange had recovered the illicit texts from the dark dimension long ago after a battle against his rival, Baron Mordo, and had stored it within his sanctum sanctorum for safekeeping ever since. I am afraid that volume is off limits, old friend, Strange said resolutely. Which of those Chionic curses could possibly aid you in your endeavors anyway? The vampiric verses, Doom whispered, almost as if speaking the spell's name aloud was enough to unleash its terror upon the world. Hold on, Bats interrupted. You want to turn yourself into a vampire? Ain't you already spooky enough, fella? I wish no such thing, Doom said, his patience beginning to crumble away. But Dracula and his immortal legion used this same rite centuries ago to successfully cheat time. Perhaps, with the proper amount of scrutiny, I can do the same and unlock the secrets of time's true nature. An interesting approach, Strange said, but one far too risky for me to allow. I'm sorry, Victor, but the answer is no. I was afraid you would say that, old friend, Doom responded, but I will have what I seek, even if I must take it from you by force. Without a moment's notice, Doom conjured up the Veil of Khonshu, sending a massive wave of darkness cascading towards Strange. Claws of Bast, Strange commanded, slashing through the oncoming wall of ebony energy with brightly glowing purple claws that were forged from spirit energy drawn directly from the Wakandan ancestral plane Djalia. Impressive, Stephen, Doom replied, circling his arms in a frenzy motion. But can you weather the mist of Fimbulwinter? A freezing gust of wind rushed from the magical circle Doom had conjured, but Strange was not willing to back down, even as the bitter frost stiffened his cape. I've spent winters in Kamatage. Yeah, Kamatage, Strange mused. This is nothing. Doom watched in surprise as Strange fought through the icy gusts to cast his next incantation. Even more shockingly, each of the Sorcerer Supreme's hands seemed to be conjuring their own spells, entirely independent of each other. One blazed a bright red, while the other glistened gold. As Strange brought his hands together, he unleashed an enchantment that even he had never summoned before, born from the combined energy of both the Crimson Cosmos and Asgard. Crimson thorns of Yggdrasil. Long spiked vines erupted forth from Strange's hands, glowing a deep scarlet as they whipped towards their intended target. Before Doom could even think to utter a defensive spell, he found himself completely ensnared by the thorny limbs, unable to move. You seem to have forgotten that I am far more powerful when within my own home, Strange said. For a guy who doesn't make mistakes, Doom, Bats added, that was a pretty big one. Perhaps I was too rash in my actions, Doom responded. Release me from these shackles, Stephen, and I assure you I will depart your home in peace. You ain't really gonna trust this guy, are you, Doc? Bats asked with deep concern. I am, Strange replied, lowering his hands and releasing the spell's grip on Doom. Victor and I may have different goals and opinions when it comes to sorcery, but he has always been a man of his word. Indeed, Doom said, as he began to walk from Strange's inner sanctum. And you also have my word, Stephen, that I will find a way to finally break the bonds of time, with your help or without. And you have my word, Strange warned, that should you overstep your station, the Sorcerer Supreme will do whatever it takes to stop you. Now get out of here before we find out just how bite-proof that tacky armor of yours really is, Bats yowled. No one speaks to Doom like that, mutt, Doom snarled back. You should consider yourself lucky that you are already deceased. Guess there's a first time for everything, Bats responded wearily. Before I go, Stephen, Doom said, looking back over his shoulder at Strange. A warning. I have foreseen a great evil coming to this city you call home. You may be safe within your house of truth for now, but those outside its walls will soon be drowning in darkness. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Bats barked towards the darkened doorway as Doom faded into the shadows. Easy, boy. He's already gone, Strange replied. But I have an uneasy feeling that we'll find out what Victor was talking about soon enough. So, if you'll excuse me. With a simple gesture with one hand, Doctor Strange opened a sparkling portal to a hidden corner of the astral plane, one so remote that even he barely knew where it was located. With a wave of his other hand, the dark hold flew off of his bookshelf and into the rift. The extra-dimensional gateway quickly closed as soon as the ancient tome passed safely through, as if it neither the portal nor the book had existed in the first place. For safekeeping, Strange said, almost as if reassuring himself. Doom will never find the Darkhold there. I just hope he's the only one looking for it, said Bats. You and I both, my friend. Strange mused, turning his attention back to the far less dangerous spell book that he had been studying when his unexpected guest first arrived. As Bats curled up on the floor of Doctor Strange's study, the chill finally faded from Bleecker Street. Soon enough, the sun would rise again, and its heat would saturate the city. If only the residents of Manhattan had known how few days of light and warmth they had left. A few months later, Stephen Strange sat in front of the large circular window on the upper level of his sanctum sanctorum, sipping on a cup of herbal tea. It had been some time since Victor Von Doom had paid him a visit, but the confrontation, while brief, had not left his thoughts. He often found himself wondering if Doom would succeed in his quest to conquer time itself. And this day, Strange would finally have his answer. Even before the blinding flash of light filled the sky, Strange could feel the massive disturbance rippling across the fabric of time and space itself. He didn't know where it originated, but he had a single educated guess. Latveria. What have you done, Victor? Strange wondered aloud as the disturbance spiraled wildly across the material plane. It pierced through dimensions, including the astral plane, and surged towards the sanctum sanctorum. Strange only had a fraction of a second to react to the oncoming wave of chrono chaos, but he knew that his next move could very well determine not only his fate, but the fate of countless universes as well. Both as a surgeon and a sorcerer, Dr. Stephen Strange had faced countless life and death choices before, but never one quite as important as this. Alright, that's the end of that one. It's surprising to see how... I don't know if it's to the same effect in the actual comics, but how cordial Strange and Doom are to one another. I could have swore, though, that because being Sorcerer Supreme, I always thought Strange kind of looked down on Doom and thought his sorcery was so-so, I guess. But yeah, to those that don't know, Doom is an accomplished sorcerer of his own right. And it's his combination of technological genius and mastery of mystic arts that do make him a dangerous opponent. But it seems the time stream entanglement is attacking, and he's got to make the decision on what to do, which is probably why it's called Magic Standstill. But until that one becomes available, that's all we know about. Anyway, that'll do for this episode of Marvel Rivals. Join me next time as I read Groot's lore. So, that is it, and there we go. And I will see you guys next time.